Dear friends, last time we closed Chapter 2 with a question, and we asked you to carry it through the week. Think of one thing you have given, something that took real energy, and ask yourself, am I still secretly hoping to be acknowledged for it? And what would it feel like, just for one breath, to let that hoping go? I carried it too. My honest weather this week, mostly overcast, with one narrow opening. Early in the week, I helped a younger colleague untangle a problem, and for 2 days I caught myself checking, almost hourly, whether a thank you had arrived. On Thursday, stuck in traffic, I suddenly saw the checking itself, not the colleague, not the message, just this hand in me, held out, waiting. And right at that seeing, the clouds opened a crack. The moment I saw the hoping, I didn't have to feed it.
My weather was fog, nearly all week. I wrote the question on a sticky note and put it on my monitor. And then, I have to confess, I spent 3 days quietly hoping someone would notice how diligently I was practicing letting go of hope. Hoping for credit, for releasing the need for credit. The fog only lifted on Saturday, standing in a slow queue for coffee, nothing to do, nowhere to scroll, and the question just went quiet on its own. Not answered, just quiet. That felt like a small patch of blue.
Thank you, Amy. Notice what the two of us were really watching all week. A heart that wants to be seen. Wanting to be thanked. Wanting to be noticed. Wanting to be ranked well. Today we open Chapter 3 of the Tao Te Ching, and this is exactly the heart Lao-tzu writes about. How it gets carried off by competing, carried off by wanting, carried off by comparing. And how to invite it back home. Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to the Road to Awakening. Today we begin Chapter 3. You could call it a prescription. Lao-tzu wrote 25 centuries ago, for a sickness we now scroll past every single day.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy. Before we explore, let me read the whole of Chapter 3, slowly, just to receive it first. By not revering the worthy, the virtuous, enable people not becoming competitive. By not valuing the hard-to-get goods, enable people not to steal. By not seeing the allowable desires, enable citizens' heart not be disturbed. Therefore, the governing of the saint is to hollow one's mind and substantiate one's core, weaken one's worldly ambition, and strengthen one's essence. Saints often let the people to be innocent of worldly knowledge and desire, cause the clever ones not to dare challenge the higher state of society. With pure intention, thus nothing will not be cured.
Thank you, Amy. A few dozen lines, and you could read them as a physician's notes on the chronic illness of human civilization. We will walk this chapter in 3 episodes. Today, the first 3 lines, the diagnosis. Lao-tzu names 3 symptoms: becoming competitive, stealing, and a heart that cannot settle. Next episode, the prescription: hollow the mind, substantiate the core, weaken the worldly ambition, strengthen the essence. And in the final episode, the root of the cure, what he calls pure intention, where nothing will not be cured.
Leo, I'll be honest about my first reaction to the opening line. By not revering the worthy. Really? Don't honor excellent people? Isn't that the opposite of everything we were raised on? Work hard, earn merit, celebrate the best?
That is the question almost every reader has asked for 2,000 years. So let's clear it first. Lao-tzu is not against excellence, and he is certainly not against effort. What he refuses is something more specific, turning worthy into a leaderboard, and then asking every human being to stake their worth on where they rank. The moment a society settles on one narrow measure of success, the salary, the title, the follower count, Effort stops being about doing the thing well. It quietly becomes about proving, I win, you lose. That is the disease hiding inside the word revering.
I know that disease from the inside. You open your phone on the commute, and there it is. A former classmate just got promoted. A friend posted the keys to a new house. And the strange thing is, my first feeling really is good for them. It's the second feeling that stings. This tightening that says, and where am I?
And where am I? Hold that little phrase up to the light, because something happened just before it arrived. In that instant, the heart performed one quick, invisible motion. It took someone else's position and used it to measure your own worth. There is a contemporary writer, Alain de Botton, who wrote a whole book about this pain and gave it a name, status anxiety. He observed that modern people weigh their own value through other people's eyes, and so they live year after year inside a comparison that never closes. Listen to his diagnosis next to Lao-tzu's. They're describing the same fever. A society raises up one standard of worthy, and every heart underneath it starts to compete. An elder on this path once shared a story that has stayed with me. A man with a genuinely high income, objectively comfortable, even enviable, lived in constant bitterness. Why? All around him were people living more modestly, but he had eyes for only one group, the few who earned more than he did. The thought, I am falling behind, burned in him day and night. The long years of that burning wore down his health, and in the end, he developed cancer of the bowel. Dear friends, competitive is not a personality trait in this chapter. It is a fire, and it does not only scorch the mind. Given enough years, it eats the body too.
That lands heavily. So when Lao-tzu says enable people not becoming competitive, he isn't telling us to stop trying. He's lifting us off the leaderboard itself?
Exactly. And his scalpel goes one layer deeper than society. In the inward reading of this chapter, the people are not only citizens out there, they are the population inside us. The eyes, the ears, the tongue, the restless faculties of sense and thought. And the worthy are the glittering names those faculties love to worship. By not revering the worthy, the virtuous, enable people not becoming competitive, then means when we stop enthroning those hollow names in the heart, our own senses stop scrambling outward to compete. So the next time the thought, I am not as good as them, flashes up, you don't need to chase it away. Just recognize it, gently. The comparing thought has arrived. In that 1 second of recognition, you have already stepped halfway off the leaderboard.
That reminds me of something from last month. I was scrolling and hit an old friend's post. She'd just bought an apartment. And right in the middle of the sting, I stopped and asked myself, do I actually need an apartment right now? Or do I need to not lose to her? And I'm not exaggerating. The sting deflated by half on the spot. Seeing it made it smaller.
That one honest question is worth 100 lectures. The comparing mind is not afraid of being seen. It is only afraid you will run with it.
But let me push back for our listeners, because I know what they're thinking. Fine, I saw it. And then 5 minutes later, it's back. One more scroll, one more post, and the tightening returns. What then?
It will come back, and that is not failure. That is simply how a long-trained habit behaves. There is an old saying among practitioners, do not fear the arising of thoughts. Fear only being slow to notice. The thought arising is human nature. The practice is not in whether it comes. It is in the speed of the noticing. The first time it burns a whole evening before you catch it. The next time, 10 minutes. Later, it barely lifts its head and you've already recognized its face. And please, don't scold yourself with, I can't believe I'm comparing again. That scolding is just another thought running. We do one thing only: see it. Every time the seeing arrives 1 second earlier, the rope pulling you outward goes one notch looser.
And after seeing it, should we do something? Distract ourselves or recite something over it to cover it up?
Nothing. And that nothing is the most precise instruction in the whole practice. Watching has 3 steps. See the thought, don't follow it, and don't press it down. Then simply rest in the seeing. Distraction is fleeing. Suppression is fighting. In both, the thought is still the main character. Only when you watch it quietly does the main character change to the one who can see. Tomorrow on your commute, you can try it. The carriage is full, and the comparing mind may stir. Whose bag is nicer? Who looks more put together? Don't touch it. Watch it like a gust of wind passing through. The wind will stop. The one watching the wind doesn't leave.
And that leads us naturally to the second line. By not valuing the hard-to-get goods, enable people not to steal. Amy, what would you say are today's hard-to-get goods?
Limited edition sneakers? The waiting list handbag? Those watches with a 2-year queue? Or anything stamped only 100 made?
All of those. But notice, Lao-tzu's emphasis is not on the goods. It is on the word valuing. The object itself is innocent. It is the heart that presses the label hard to get onto it. And from that moment, the object begins to govern us. Once a thing is enshrined as, "With this, I am finally complete," we will do things for it that shortchange our own life and wrong the people around us. That is the root of stealing. Stealing here doesn't have to mean theft. It can be stealing time from your children, stealing sleep from your body, stealing peace from your family, to pay for a badge.
So the stealing happens inside first. Before anything is taken, the heart has already been taken.
Precisely. An elder once shared 2 stories that face each other like mirrors. In the first, an old man accidentally scratched someone's luxury car. The owner pressed for compensation in full, an enormous sum, not 1 cent yielded. The old man, crushed under the pressure, took his own life. A car, in the end, drove out a human life. And you have to ask, who stole from whom? The second story comes from Taiwan. A vegetable vendor named Chen Shu-chu, a woman of very modest means, who quietly donated her life savings to build a library for children. The same money that enslaved the car owner was, in her hands, simply a tool. She had seen through it, so she could release it. One person was owned by what he owned. The other used it freely, and what she built with it became a genuine and lasting virtue.
The same object. One person bound by it, one person setting it free. The difference was never in the thing. It's in whether the label precious got pressed on.
You've gathered the whole line into 1 sentence. And the Quran says something piercingly close. The life of this world is but play and amusement, adornment, mutual boasting, and rivalry in wealth and children. Mutual boasting, rivalry in wealth. In a few words, it names both revering the worthy and valuing the hard-to-get goods. And it calls the whole contest what it is: a passing show, too brief to anchor a heart on. Dear friends, on this point the sages of every tradition saw one and the same truth. Do not build your home on things that crumble. Let me pause here for a moment. If anything in today's conversation has touched something in you, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel, Voice of Heavenly Tao, and to share the road to awakening with one friend. Maybe the friend who has been living exhausted lately, always comparing, always behind in a race no one signed them up for. Your one share might be the second in which they stop,
and finally see themselves. Let's continue.
The third line,
By not seeing the allowable desires, enable citizens' heart not be disturbed. The allowable desires are simply the heart's I want. And an elder put it very directly, that I want is the single largest gateway through which we entangle our lives. The door it usually enters by is the eyes.
This is the line that reads my diary. Lying in bed at night, honestly just wanting to unwind, and the thumb opens a shopping app, then a stream of short videos, one thing pulling the next, more and more awake, more and more restless. I wanted rest. And here's the strangest part. Most of the time, I don't even lack the things I'm looking at. But watching and watching, I start to need them.
watching and watching, I start to need them.
Amy, that is a perfect modern commentary on the allowable desires. So much of desire is not grown from inside, it is planted through the eyes. The seed drops in, and the heart immediately starts watering it, imagining owning it, calculating how to buy it, comparing prices across 3 sites. And a whole evening of your one life is carried off, bowl and all, by a want that did not exist an hour ago. When Lao-tzu writes about the heart being disturbed, this is the picture he is painting. And notice, the disturbance doesn't begin at I can't have it. It begins at I keep looking. In ancient Athens, Socrates loved to stroll through the marketplace with all its dazzling goods, and his famous sigh afterward was pure delight. How many things there are that I do not need. Walking the same street of allowable desires, he saw not, what am I still missing, but I was never missing it. That single turn of the head is the most vivid footnote ever written to not seeing the allowable desires.
How many things there are that I do not need. Leo, what gets me is the delight. If one of us said, "There's so much here I can't afford," that's sour. He says, "There's so much here I don't need," and it's sweet. Same street. How can it land so differently?
Because he was counting his freedom, and we count our lack. A thing you do not need has no jurisdiction over you. So the bigger the market, the freer he walked, since every item he didn't need was one more rope that could never be tied to him. We walk the same market assuming every want is mandatory, so the bigger the market, the more ropes. One sentence from that philosopher offers us a whole second definition of wealth. There is being rich by owning much, and being rich by needing little. The second kind is available to any of us, starting tonight.
But Leo, here's the honest difficulty. We can't simply not look. For so many of us, the screen is the job. Social feeds are someone's 9 to 5. The messages don't stop. The family group chat alone posts 100 times a day. Not seeing sounds beautiful, but our eyes never get a day off. What then?
That question touches the sore spot of our whole era, so let's give not seeing 3 honest layers. First layer, what can be avoided? Avoid. The aimless midnight scroll, the shopping tab open just to look. That isn't work, that's habit, and the door handle is in our own hand. Second layer, what cannot be avoided? No. When looking is the job, look, but keep one small lamp lit inside. I am working right now. I am not feeding the want. The same scrolling, done awake or done asleep, are 2 different lives. And the third layer, the deepest, see, and let the heart not lodge there. For that one, we need to invite the Diamond Sutra.
Before you do, can I make the second layer concrete? Because that little lamp sounds lovely and then the inbox arrives. Do you mean something as simple as naming what I'm doing?
Exactly that simple. One sentence, silently, at the moment you pick the device up. I am opening this to answer the team, or I am opening this to check tomorrow's schedule. Said in 1 second. What it does is draw a boundary the eyes can feel. You came in with an errand, so when the errand is done, some part of you remembers there was a door. Without the sentence, there is no door, only a corridor of glowing rooms, each opening into the next. Try it for 1 day and watch how often the sentence surprises you. How often the honest version turns out to be, I am opening this because my hand was bored. The Diamond Sutra teaches, arouse the mind without dwelling on anything. To dwell is to stick, to stop on a thing and glue to it. The Buddha's point is radical. The true heart does not need any object to lean on in order to exist. When the heart doesn't glue itself to what passes in front of it, its clarity doesn't dim. It comes alive. Dear friends, there is an extremely fine seam I'd ask you to feel for. Between the instant the eyes see a thing and the instant the heart says, I want it, there is a gap. Inside that gap, there is one who has seen and has not yet moved. It doesn't run after the glowing screen, doesn't run after anyone's car or house or rank. It has never once been disturbed. When Lao-tzu writes, enable citizens' heart not be disturbed, at the deepest level, he is asking us to get acquainted with the one in us that was never disturbed to begin with.
So the 3 sicknesses, competing, stealing, a disturbed heart, they're really one sickness with one medicine, calling the outward-looking gaze back home.
Yes, and calling it back is not suppression. It is not stuffing the desire into a cupboard and pretending it isn't there. It will only knock at midnight. Calling it back is a very small practice you can do right now while you're listening. No need to close your eyes. Just let your gaze rest on any one thing in front of you. A cup, a lamp. Look at it and add nothing. No judging whether it's nice, no wanting it, no wanting to replace it. Just that. 3 seconds. Did you notice? For those 3 seconds, the heart was at rest. The thing was still there, the eyes were still open, but I want did not stand up. That is the taste of seeing without the seeing becoming desire. The world didn't change. The hand that goes around sticking price tags on everything simply set down its labels for a moment. That hand resting, that is the home Lao-tzu keeps pointing us back to.
Those 3 seconds were quieter than everything we said today. So the undisturbed heart isn't somewhere to reach. It never left.
It never left. The one that doesn't need to compare, doesn't need to grab, and was complete before any ranking existed. Today we've sat with the diagnosis. 3 lines, 3 symptoms. Competing, stealing, a heart pulled into turmoil. Next episode, Lao-tzu opens the prescription itself, to hollow one's mind and substantiate one's core, to weaken one's worldly ambition and strengthen one's essence, how a scattered heart is gathered home, inch by inch. Before we part, as always, one question to carry through your week. Don't rush to answer it. Don't answer it to anyone at all. Just let it sit in you and slowly ferment. Here it is. If this world had no rankings of any kind, no one comparing, no eyes watching, the thing you are pouring yourself into right now, would you still want to do it? If the answer is yes, congratulations, there is something true inside it. And if you suddenly cannot answer, congratulations even more. An honest loss for words is closer to the Tao than a polished answer.
I heard the question and went quiet myself. This week, we'll carry it together.
If this episode helped you even a little, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, Voice of Heavenly Tao, and tell us in the comments about your own inner weather this week, where the fog rolled in and where the sky opened. Your support is what keeps us walking this road.
This is where my own learning reaches today.
If anything in this exploration was mistaken or poorly said, I ask the wise and enlightened ones, in their compassion, to forgive and correct me. Thank you, dear friends. Until next time.
Gratitude for the grace of heaven and virtue of teachers. Thank you for listening. See you next time.